Good morning, all you profitable stylists out there and all you future profitable stylists out there. How versatile are hair extensions? That's what we're going to be talking about today. We've covered a lot of these topics individually, but the amount of requests and questions that we keep getting about this, we got to turn it into a full topic today to go over it all. What is this behind you, real quick?
Oh, it doesn't
What is
matter.
this on this back there?
That's a color college. We're testing a new product to teach stylists how to do color, starting from bleaching, the simplest bleaching, color two to color lifting from 2 to 3, 2 to 4,
Mm.
2 to 5, 2 to 6, and then the next one, and then the coloring. And so it's a very detailed, starting from the very beginning. Nothing about that today. That'll be future videos. We're testing it right now. Right after this, I have 3 or 4 stylists that'll join me for their second class on that. But let's talk about versatile or versatility. Versatile? Is it versatile or versatile extension
Oh,
use?
well, how do you say that? Versatile, yeah? Versatile.
Comment.
Wow.
Comment. Comment.
Comment. Let me know how. Teach me how to speak English goodly,
Lay down,
please.
boy. Lay down. Good
So then, the
boy.
main question that we get a lot is, when you hear the word hair extensions, and we do talk about this a lot. But what do you hear when you hear the word hair extensions? Do you hear adding length, volume? Is it a creative tool? I mean, it's all of the above. But
Sure.
why do you keep getting asked that question the most? What is the standpoint or the viewpoint of the person asking?
What? Yeah. This is good. I just went on tour.
Ooh,
I know.
fancy.
I know. Don't you love it? So
Went on
I,
tour.
I went to see. I, I noticed we have enough clients close enough to us, and not close enough that I want to drive home every night. So I left Monday morning and went to see a stylist in Lafayette. And then I drove like 4 hours up to Shreveport, saw another stylist that evening, then drove halfway to across the top of Louisiana. I was going towards Canton, Mississippi, but I stopped somewhere around Monroe to sleep, and then the next morning taught in Canton, and then drove straight down home. So I did a little bit of a square,
Mm.
and I saw 3 different stylists. I started off with a class in Poplarville for a school. Taught 3 students at PRCC, Pearl River Community College, and I almost went on. I call it tour because it does sound fancy. And I was teaching extensions to 4 in a row, but after PRCC, I was like, okay, so the one in Lafayette hasn't answered my text yet. I'm gonna come home and then start off again in the morning. But I almost spent 2 nights out on tour, so I've been calling it tour because I kind of am touring an area, not the country just yet, but just a few hours square of Louisiana and a little bit of Mississippi. And a lot of what we're talking about comes up versatile. They the I get back from all of this traveling, and then this guy had borrowed something from me, and he comes to give it back. And he's a brand new friend through the beekeepers community. He borrowed a smoker, and he's like, "So where were you the last few days?" I said, "On tour." And so I said, he goes, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I teach hairdressers how to do hair extensions." And he looked at me kind of funny, and he says, "Is that mostly for African American people?" And
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
right there, I said, it's funny that this is our topic today, because I said, well, first, let me educate you on that term you just used. And he goes, oh, did I say something wrong? I said, well, not necessarily, but nobody knows what to call the culture because we've come up with so many different words over the years. I said, it's right back to the basics, black and white. And so Elon Musk is a white guy from Africa. He's African American, and he's not what most people think an African American is supposed to look like. So they kind of dropped that term, but a lot of people still use it. But it's interesting you say that, because a lot of black girls have added hair extensions being one. But many people think extensions are just for poor people, just for rich people, just for celebrities, just for strippers, just for black people. And hair extensions are actually for all of those groups and categories. But isn't it crazy that so many people think it's just for one of those groups? Somehow they heard this group of people get hair extensions, And so then that's all they think. Like this guy
Isn't it
thought.
wild? Because for the longest time, Black people were the only ones talking about it. You know,
And they,
everybody else was so secretive about it. Like, oh my God, I can't let anybody, God forbid, anybody knows.
that's probably, yeah.
It's so
Yes.
wild.
And that was part of my early education, was that I had a Black consultation who I said, I think your hair is too short. And she said, why? I don't care if you can see where they're attached. It was my first experience of somebody being almost proud and wanting to show that she had hair extensions.
They really embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
first she says, just take nice, neat sections, because everyone's going to see your sectioning. And that's part of the show, is how neat your sections are. And I thought, oh goodness, interesting. So I've got to be neater, because even my sectioning is not going to be hidden under some hair. It's got to be perfect little squares, rectangles, whatever you decide. So that was part of my early education. Well, then the next thing, which we can cover more of that also if you want to, but the real question was the versatility, because like you said, what are they used for? What do you think of when you think of hair extensions? First, I think of who gets them, because I get asked that all the time, but everybody gets them. Even guys get them sometimes.
Well, I've got us broken down into a couple of subcategories.
Okay.
So we can run them through.
Well, let me say this one thing real quick, because and I won't go through the whole answer then in case it messes up your questions. But the thing that I started to realize early on is that the word itself is terrible.
You hate the word. You hate the word. So I love this part. I love listening to you talk about
Because
it.
it says only one part of what it actually does, you know? Yeah. It says extend. It's extending. It's making your hair longer. And I know that's what most people want. And when we get models for hair shows and we are like, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to do a show. We're going to have all these models that just get them for all these things that we'll probably talk about in a minute. Everything but extending the length, you know, colors, highlight, thickening, whatever. And then we advertise for these models, but they see the word extensions. And then they're like, oh, but I really wanted my hair longer. Girl, you're helping us with this. We have a directive for the show, and what you want isn't part of it, but it's hard to advertise what you want with that stupid word extensions, because that word says we're doing long hair no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And we're not necessarily doing long hair.
Right.
So in a consultation, you can use it as an answer to solve problems that aren't always just long hair. But even as a group of stylists, as an industry, we're not there yet. So you go ahead with your stuff, and then I'll do my ranting later if I have.
Well, you'll do your ranting later with it. Well, one of the things that's very interesting about it right now, what's trending very popularly for hair extensions, is the fact that it's a color without a commitment. So it's giving people the ability to try colors that they've never had before. So for somebody that's been blonde forever and they've wanting to do lowlights, one of the main things that happens on blondes is you start putting darker color in, but if you don't put it in correctly, it'll fade out really quick and it'll turn brassy. And that is the kiss of death for any blondes out there. They don't want to have any of that, you know, ugly, golden, yellowing, orangey looking things.
Right. But they've already lost so much integrity in the hair to hold on to color that it's always going to fade. My best example, and this example is like 20 something years old. Somebody brings a magazine in and shows me a blonde with dark streaks, stripes, lowlights, whatever you want to call it. It was Britney Spears.
Oh, nice.
And I said, we probably shouldn't do this with color, because the only color we're going to get that we might keep, and then if you don't like it, it's going to be hard to change, is black. Because I can put so much pigment in there, it'll turn it black. But any shade of brown is not going to be quite enough pigment. It's most likely going to fade over some time. Those lowlights are going to start to look a little orangey, brassy, something you don't like. Then finding those exact pieces again to retouch them is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to find just those few pieces. Oh, sure. I think we should do this with extensions. And this is just me looking at a picture and saying that. And then the client says, well, that's what they said she got in the article. Low lights with extensions. I said, well, then why are you asking me to do it
Then
with
why are
color?
you asking for color? Right. Why is this rule that it has to be done with hair color then,
I
you
was
know?
so blown away. I said, well, then that answers the question. She goes, I just didn't know about extensions. And that's the problem. They don't know. And hairdressers don't explain it well. So that gave me an opportunity to explain
You want to know
why,
something that's
how,
even crazier, Bernard?
what.
So many times I've heard this myself at the salon. The stylist will mention like what you just said. The client will look the stylist right in the face and go, I didn't even know you do hair extensions.
Right?
Like it's, you think just because you got trained or just because you bought something that they're just magically going to walk in. Hang your color ring on your station. I don't know, put your tool out. How can anybody ever know anything if you don't show it or talk about it? That is wild.
So, so I just wrote an article for the American Hair Loss Council, and I sent it to Master Grayson,
Mm,
Jude Grayson, the karate guy. In his world, it's a military type of atmosphere where they all earn these titles, and you're supposed to address each person by their title or their last name. So I'm always Mr. Ori, and so he said, I told him, I said, listen, you know all that stuff you've taught me about social media. I wrote an article. He had me intro at a summit he was doing, a 4-day summit. He had people fly in from out of town to teach them how to do their business, how to run their businesses. And I introed the social media part because he said, yes, I agree with you. He has gotten so advanced in it, he's not covering the basics. So I covered the basics. And one of the parts of the article is basically that social media, Facebook specifically, is the new window into your salon. And
mm.
so if you're not posting pictures or videos, nobody's seeing what's happening in your salon. Like you just said, how does anybody know that you are doing extensions? How does anybody know you're doing anything if you don't post it? So basically, people say, with social media, word of mouth is dead. Nobody really talks anymore. They're posting online because social media is the new word of mouth. That's where the talk happens. So the new window where you used to have your windows open, you'd work near the window so people walking by would see it. Not everybody works where there's a window. But luckily for us these days, we have a digital window like we're doing right now. We're in a window. That's how the world sees us. If we were just sitting talking at a coffee shop, nobody would ever know this happened.
Yeah, right.
But because we're doing it somewhere that could possibly live forever out on the internet, more and more people will get benefit from this. So if you're doing a service, any service, a new service, color, highlights, cuts, whatever it is you do, if you don't have a video camera up or your phone on a tripod and then posting it, nobody knows you did it. I mean, your client might tell a person. That's the slow way these days. So
Mhm.
yeah, you've got to open your windows, which means you've got to post.
It's
I don't know.
wild. So I've talked about this before. I've told you about this before, and it's interesting because when you and I was talking about this, I know we're not going to talk about it right now, but the color college thing,
Yeah.
um, I was remembering no, because I just did a class last Monday, and in the program we were covering a variety of topics. It was a 7-hour continuing education day. Yeah, it was a long presentation. It was a long day, but I covered a dozen different topics just to keep the pacing kind of quick. One of the topics when it was talking about hair color, I don't know the name of the salon, but there was a salon in New York that did an experiment. And the experiment was simply this: they no longer wanted to do chemical services with highlighting, bleaching, lightening. So instead, anytime a client would come in and ask for highlights, streaks, pieces, chunks, money pieces, whatever it's called, they would do it with hair extensions rather than do it with hair
Cool.
color.
That's cool.
And they started advertising chemical free chemical services. And it was the weirdest headline, but it got so much attention from the curiosity of like, what is these people are talking about, you know? Oh, chemical free color. I forgot exactly how they said it, but the point was they would take like a pack of hair and pack or two of hair, and they would position it around through the top, and that would give that highlighted effect or that low lighted effect or that ombre or that bali, whatever the color thing was, the variety of different techniques that we can do. They did it with that. What they found was that they actually increased because they started doing it at like the regular color prices because they were doing it experimental. So then this way nobody could be like, oh, I'm not paying more.
Right.
What they actually found was people wanted more. Clients that were getting this experiment loved it so much because the color wasn't fading. They were getting more volume and fullness because of the small amount of pieces they were putting in. Their
Right.
hair was thickening up at the ends. It was making it easier for them to style their hair. They found that their profits increased, their return return visits increased, and pre-booking increased tremendously. So that, what do you think of that? That's a
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah. And because you have to redo extensions, there's a time where they might start to, they grow out and you want to get them replaced, tightened, fixed. It could start to get damaging if you leave it too long. So
Yeah, yeah.
it almost forces a revisit in a timely manner compared to somebody letting their ugly color grow out. And you know what else? What else changed that whole scenario? We've been talking about doing this for a very long time, and I hated it when we first brought it up because I liked highlights that showed right on top of the head, right down to the scalp. It was all about how close to the head can you get it, although that grows out in like 2 days. So then it doesn't matter anymore. But the thing that we sort of tried to make famous at one point was that undercurrent, where the hair color or highlight or chunk comes from underneath. And it wasn't long after that color melts, ombres, balayages, and all these different foliages started to become popular, which, the good and the bad of it, we could do a whole video about that, how that spread the visits out for clients and hairdressers where they make less money. So you got to have more clients or charge more, whatever. That's a whole different topic. But the bottom line is you didn't have to have color that looked like it came right from the scalp anymore, which made using extensions for these services more realistic where they weren't in the very beginning. And that's when I didn't like it. I used to think, how are you going to do highlights with extensions? It's going to show further down. Then I started to realize placement made a difference. Like the higher you put the highlight, the less of the brown hair came up over the blonde, if that's the colors you're using. And then you can cut the brown hair on top, texturizing scissors, point cutting, thinning techniques to reveal more of a highlight. If you put a blonde piece in, you can start to cut more of the hair away that's hiding the highlight too far down. So I started to learn, but between placement and cutting, you can reveal or diminish or enhance highlights or lowlights done with extensions. So yeah, there was just so much has changed over the last 10, 15 years with that. And I guess I've decided to embrace it and appreciate the change. Although getting older and seeing the trends happen, you can always point out, I think we tend to be negative as humans. So the old people that we complain about that are just old and grumpy, they just start seeing the good old days, right? And they just see all the things that changed for the worse. But you have to try a little harder to say, you know what? Some of these things are for the better also. And so I try to be that person that kind of puts them both in their perspective box. Like, yeah, ombres, balayages, grown out color looks, roots. You can, we used to do clients highlights every 3 or 4 weeks. 4 was most of the time. Few of them came at 3 weeks. Very few came at 5 or 6 weeks. Now you can easily go 6, 8 weeks or more. So to me, I just saw the dollar signs spread out throughout the year. Now I need more clients that fill more time. That would be the negative side. But it's fixable with more people and bigger, higher prices. But it's a trend. And so you got to move with the trend. You can't just fight it. It's a look and people want it.
One thing about the trends that I've seen it evolve to is fashion and using hair extensions as accessories. In the 80s, especially, and in the 90s, it was all about accessories. You couldn't have enough chains. You couldn't have enough spikes. You couldn't have enough, piercings. You couldn't have enough things dangling. In the early 2000s, who was that one singer with the feathers?
Oh,
you know.
I see the face.
Yeah.
Is Tyler in the name?
Yes, Tyler.
I can't say it. Anyway,
God
somebody
bless.
will post it here for us.
Please tell me because it's going to make me mental now. Steven Tyler, thank you, thank you. But the it was all about
Yeah.
dressing up and putting together and a complete ensemble in fashion, right? Now you fast forward talking about looking at it, remembering the good old days and looking at the bad and trying to find the good. Fashion nowadays, in my opinion, is very lazy. Or at least it's been very lazy. But what I'm starting to see now is it's starting to come back to the point where people aren't just rolling out of bed. They're actually trying to do something to dress up their laziness, if you will. So they're kind of like 50-50 half-assing it, but at least it's moving towards the direction of you starting to care about how you put yourself together, right? Hair is the ultimate accessory. I seen a girl come in, she's like, I ain't washed my hair in a week and I just got out of bed. I'm like, well, here's my brush. Can you at least brush your damn hair and make yourself look semi presentable for the love of God?
Yeah.
We have at the salon, we have a lot of people that come in and just hang out because we're just the neighborhood shop of fun. you know,
That's nice.
um, it's hilarious how many clients are driving home or just on break or in the area and they just stop in and hang out for 10-15 minutes. If you just brush your hair out and then pull it up into a messy bun, it's still not done by any sense of the means, but at least you look like you attempted to do something. And when you have hair extensions in there and they're coming out, or you got like a couple of pieces hanging out and then you got everything else in a bun, I mean, that could be fun too.
Yeah.
It really is a cool accessory. So if you're going to still be grungy, yeah, go for it. But I love how it's dressed up. Now, the other flip side to that is the polar opposite extreme. Have you seen this thing where women are wearing these power suits and they've got this beautiful blow dried hair, like business women, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden they got like a contrasting streak of hair extensions coming down the side of their head. So you have like a nice brunette and she's got like a black highlight right here. It is, and then she's in like a white suit and heels and everything, full face makeup. It is wild. It is so wild. Looks like
Right.
you're going to be on a runway somewhere.
I know. I am shocked that I don't know what the actual word for it is. Some people call it fantasy colors, some call it fun colors,
Hmm.
crazy colors. But I guess the unnatural, bright colors that nobody's born with, red, blue, green, those colors on people's heads, I always thought was a trend and would go away, but it's still here. We're we're loosely not as addicted to Ginny and Georgia on Netflix, but one of the Georgia's the little girl, the high school girl in the show, and one of her friends in the show. I was like, looked at my wife. I was like, look, red. She's got bright red streaks. I can't tell if it's extensions or colored red. But every time in a Netflix series or a show or a movie that's modern and they still have that purple or blue or green, I'm kind of excited. I'm glad it hasn't gone away completely because hair, like you said, is the ultimate accessory that stays with you no matter how relaxed you dress or how dressed up you are. It's hard to hide it if you think you're going to a more I don't know, more less casual, I should say, a more dressy event. Your hair's still going to hold whatever you decided, kind of like your tattoos. You're not easily hiding the wrist and hand and face tattoos, neck tattoos necessarily. Those are part of your look for life. And so hair isn't as permanent at that, but it's short-term permanent, right? You put red,
Mhm.
you put bright red or blue pieces in your hair. You're living with that good, bad, ugly, awake, sleeping for the next few weeks, days, months. I mean, I guess you could change it. Did you have a list of questions for today, or how is this? You said you had some.
Yeah, we're just it's a little bit more loose. They're not direct questions, but we've
Okay.
just been kind of ebbing and flowing through
Okay.
topics.
Just want to make sure I didn't. Yeah, that I gave you a
No,
chance to
no,
get
you're
rid of
good.
stuff.
You've been no, it's been look, you're awesome. You're great, Bernard. Words of affirmation. the This is something you and I teach a lot in the class, and this is where in my opinion, the real profits are made is in volume, not length. Let's talk about volume. I mean, we got to talk about length, but before the length, let's talk about volume.
I don't think we do. I think people know length is there. We can totally leave it to the end, maybe skip it altogether.
All right, well,
But
we'll go into length first. We'll tackle volume and then we'll go into length.
no, we're going to leave length out.
All right, leave
Uh,
length.
all of the alternatives to length, that's the things that you're definitely right. That's where the profit is. I mean, the full length, it's a lot more expensive and less likely someone continues to get it because often they're growing their hair out at the same time. So then they meet the length and don't necessarily need it anymore. So it's a possible ending service also, whereas volume, it's so powerful. We had this on my tour. The I ended up getting to Shreveport a little later than I expected, like 4:35 in the evening. But I did this. I took a chance. Like I planned the route without anybody knowing I was coming, and so Alexis made me a list. I got names and phone numbers, and I start texting them, telling them I'm going to be in their area in the next few hours or in this day, and some don't answer. And I said, I'd like to show you something new. It's the Ultra Weft and give you a few gifts. I give them a hair extension brush or two, the big and the small one, and some of the little black clips that we have that's got on stage branded on it. And so it's clips everybody wants. They appreciate the gifts. And so the second place I was getting there a little in the evening. So I said, do you want to, I said, I've been driving all day. What are you off yet? And she said, I've been off for a couple hours getting ready to go eat. I said, well, let's eat before and so we talked while we're eating. I said, I can show you everything while we're eating. So as we're eating and I talked to her about what's going on, she starts telling me about this client. Now I'm seeing this hairdresser because she did one client a year ago and never did any more. And so I thought, well, I'm in her area. I'll talk to her, see if we. And so while we're eating, I said, call her, tell her we're going to do her hair tonight. And she said, yeah. I said, text her, see if you can get in touch with her. She texted her. I said, do you still have her hair? She goes, I do. And so we text her. She came to the salon and we did her hair.
That's fun.
In the evening, all at the last second. The client was so happy. She said, of course, the guy's in town. My teacher is in town. He's going to do it. And I said, I'm not doing it. Why did you tell her I'm going to do it? I did end up doing the last 4 or 5 on the sides because I wanted it to be secure on the ends. But I guided her through each one of them. Now, listen, originally she had 2 wefts in and some strands. But over the year, this hairdresser used one of the wefts to practice fantasy coloring on. So we weren't using that one. So this client comes and we're basically putting one weft in. And it's mostly for thickness. It does add a little length because her hair is so fine and thin, it looks shorter. But we put one in for thickness, and it was amazing. It was really, really platinum blonde. And she was like, I barely feel this. Oh, this is way better than I remember. Now, it was done a year ago, and it was done by the student. So maybe it wasn't as comfortable the first time around because I was really showing her how to get enough hair to support the weight, get it at natural fall. We redid a couple that she did wrong. So I could see where she probably caused some pain or some irritation from some bad technique. And so I perfected that technique, got it in there. This model client, whatever you want to call her a model because she didn't pay. And she was so happy with her hair. And it was mostly about thickness because all we did was fill her hair up because her hair was just so damaged, fried, over bleached, and just getting shorter and just frail at the ends. We didn't have to cut her hair or the extension hair, just a rounded placement, rounded the bottom just perfectly that it looked so good going in. She was so happy. Last minute, she said, if I've got it, she was like telling me on the side, and I hope that the wrong people don't see this. Like she's ready. Like if it doesn't go well next time with the hairdresser, they want me to come that way or they're ready to drive down here. And I said, I don't do hair anymore. She has to get this. She has to get this. She's doing your hair. I may go up there again and help one more time, but
right.
She's doing it. I'm trying not to get clients.
You're trying to teach something over here.
It's funny to watch people try to build a business I'm trying not to build a business. I have to try to not do clients. It's so freaking hard.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that all too well.
but she loves it.
The
So
one of the
thickening.
things,
Thickening
what's
is
that?
the thing. That thickening is the thing.
Thickening,
So
yeah.
yeah. So go ahead. You had something to say, and then I'm gonna say. Well, I'm gonna do my apartment complex analogy.
No, no, do your thickening, because after the thickening, I have a follow-up still in the volume stuff.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question
So
for you. You
so
made me think of
something
something.
I'm gonna add a little to this. Some of you guys have heard this speech before, but I'm gonna add a little to it. To me, thickening usually, let's just take the average or the actual head. I mean, on the back of your head, you have hair from here to here. And then for the people with ears, the clients that we have that have ears, on the sides only have hair from here to here. So no matter who you are, it doesn't matter if your hair is thick or thin, everyone's hair is thinner on the sides than it is in the back, right? Because you've just got so much more hair from top to bottom. And I don't think we think about that often, especially girls' hair who's covering the ears. You just see solid hair all the way around. And you wonder, why do I see the ear a little bit more than I can see through the hair back here? Because there's more hair underneath it in the back. So on the side, not only do we have ears in place of hair, we've also got hair cut to frame the face. So we're taking some away sometimes to cut in that front. Maybe we have bangs. Maybe we have a part that's taking all that top hair and going that way. So now we have this little bit of hair on one side that's thinner and thicker on the other. So all of those things are going on to thicken or thin our natural look without doing anything. So when you say thicken hair, my first thought is just the very obvious first thing that every single person with longer hair, even men, when they have longer hair, would love a little more hair on the sides. So it all started with the she hair keratin bonds that we sell, 10 strands per pack. You could literally buy one pack of hair and put 5 on each side, or a little more on one side than the other, or all 10 on the thinner side, thicken that side, same color, and it would look amazing. Now listen, maybe you stocked some hair and you don't have the exact same color, so you do a close color. It's fine because now it's dimensional. It's not extending out past their hair, so there's no line of demarcation in color or cut. You're matching the length and you're just thickening a little, so you can be a little different color. You could purposely highlight a low light. But now I'm pushing that into further. You can even do it with a weft or tape ins. God, I hate tape ins. But you can do it one tape in on each side. When we were selling the heated sealed in tape ins, it was perfect because there was 4 pieces in a pack, 2 sandwiches. And so you could put one on this side, one on this side, and thicken the sides. But even with the on-stage beaded strands, it is 25 strands. So you don't have to use the whole pack, but you can put 12 or 13 on each side, 12 on one side, 12 on the other side. And then you're going to have one piece left over, and that one you throw away because you don't want to do it.
Right.
You don't want to do it uneven because that would just mess me up. So then if you bought a 12-inch wide weft, you can cut it into little 1.5-inch wide pieces or any size you want and just put one on each side. So you can buy 3 or 4 different color wefts, and just be ready to put a little bit of one weft and charge a lot less money because that 12-inch wide weft can be cut into 8.5-inch wide pieces. And if you just use 2 on a person, well, you have 6 more to use. You can do 3 more clients. And so just doing that would be amazing. The problem is the hairdressers don't know how to get that to happen. They're waiting for the clients to ask for these things, and they don't. I mean, color vendors used to tell us everybody can benefit from color. Just tell them. And now everybody gets color or highlights, so we don't have to tell or ask them anymore. So we birthed this whole new generation of hairdressers every year, and they all just know that customers expect haircuts, highlights, and color, and all the fancy colors. But they don't come in as often asking for hair extensions, although people do. And so then even if they ask for hair extensions, they want length because that's what the word says they need. They don't know that you can, like we started off, do highlights or lowlights or thickening with extensions. So I'm going to get to the analogy now. So what I realized just from trying to do some investing over the years. You buy a couple of homes and try to rent them out. And then you have a renter move out, and I have a house for 3 months with no renter in it. I'm remodeling, but I'm still paying the note. And I'm like, God, this is expensive and I'm not making any money. And then I hear a talk where they talk about, if I have an apartment complex, let's just do a small one with 10 units and 1 or 2 are empty so I can remodel, I've still got the rent coming in for 7 or 8 of them, or 9. And so I've still got money coming in that hopefully would pay the note while I'm remodeling. I'm like, yes, it's all bigger money, but it's more doable. I'm not losing money while the renter's gone. So the reason I say that is during the week, you can recommend highlights or lowlights or thickening to 10 different clients during the week. And if you put 10 clients with a little thickening on the sides or highlights or lowlights, and that is equal to making the same money as 1 full extension job, which would you rather have? Because next month or 2 months from now, when they all need to be redone, to full heads, some of them say no. That's that big giant money gone. But it's unlikely 10 thickening services. As a matter of fact, let's take another category. Thickening is a little bit more of a need than a want. Long hair is a little bit more of a want. It's a little more like cosmetic surgery compared to life surgery. I have to do this to save my life. Well, that's how people think about thickening. Like, I look sick if I have thin hair. Thicker hair makes me look and feel better every day. Long hair, it does all of that plus more, which is more expensive, not as necessary, but fun. And I get it, but it's going to be given up a little sooner. When you're just thickening somebody's hair, they just feel and look healthier, and nobody knows they're doing it. They're just going to work every day and looking younger, so they get the better job, they get the better everything, the better boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever they're looking for. And so it actually enhances their whole life, their styling, their everything. And if you lose 1 or 2 of those clients, you still have 70, 80, 90% of that income coming in. And you can replace that 1 or 2, and you can get them easier if you're recommending it every day. Hey, Miss Jones, what do you say we make your hair a little thicker on the sides? And she goes, sure. That's when I say it's like that game where you're holding your phone up and it says extensions. Don't say the word extensions. Let her say it and try to talk to her about making her hair thicker, and let her say the word if she needs to. That was a lot.
It's an awesome analogy, and it's great advice. To me, in addition to agreeing with everything you're saying, I will add this. Volume and thickening to me is also simply correcting a haircut or filling in a missing part of the hairstyle. And how many times I've lost count of how many times a client will come in and she's had really bad layering, and they've got like a 2-tier haircut. One half of their hair ends here and the other half of their hair ends here. And this looks all straggly on the bottom, and this is all too thick on the top. And I call it like a mushroom head, or like that mushroom cloud, like the A-bomb.
Yeah.
I think it was even a trending for a little while because so many people had it. It was like the jellyfish, and they were calling it tentacles on the bottom or something, calamaris, And so now that trend goes away, but you've got all these clients that need to grow all of that out to get to the next trend, and that takes time. So simply waiting for this to catch up to this, that's about 6 to 8 months, if not longer, depending on how fast or slow your hair grows. But if you just fill that in, now it's going to make it seamless. It doesn't look so tiered or disconnected so harshly, and that's an extreme example of it. The more common example is, you were kind of saying this earlier too. Women in general have a softer hairline. They don't have such a pronounced hairline. And especially because they don't really have sideburns or facial hair, their hair tends to stop a little bit higher up. So they're always missing the corner. And it's always with haircuts and layering. We're always talking about the corner, which is all the face framing. And this is what I say in classes all the time. Give me any lady who's pushing her hair forward. and looking herself in the mirror and purposefully pushing her hair forward and trying to make sure that it's sitting somewhere on her neck. That person right there, perfect candidate for thickening because they're self-conscious about being naked in that area. They need to cover up. They have an internal psychological want and need to cover up. It's such a quick fix. The disconnected haircut, a bad haircut. Look, we had a young girl. She got the brush stuck in her hair, and her ma just took the kitchen shears. She tried to fix it. She couldn't get the brush out. Chopped her hair. So now the poor girl got a little chunk on the side of her head missing, right?
Then she calls you instead of calling you before.
And then she calls and she comes in and she's got, the whole thing covered or whole thing showing. She's got like a little beanie cap on. So yeah, you put in 5, 6, 7, 10 strands, whatever you need to do in that one little section right there. None the wiser until it eventually grows out. None the wiser. Nobody's embarrassed anymore. Nobody's crying. She can go back to school. The worst or best phone call, I don't know which way you want to call it. I had a ma call me. Her daughter had locked herself in the bathroom and was refusing to come out of the bathroom because she got hacked up at the salon. She had an inspiration idea on her phone, showed it to the stylist. The stylist was like,
That was like fun.
It'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be fine, right? Like, I'll fake it till I make it because I have no idea how the hell to do that. I called the stylist and was like, WTF to the stylist. And she's like, I was just trying to fake it till I made it. It didn't work. To hell with her. She's a little jerk anyways. I'm like, that's not nice, man. Same thing though. You thicken up that hair and it's perfect. So like you've said, thin hair, fine hair, shorter hair, volume thickening, corrective styling, everything, all of the above. That's covers that topic. We kind of alluded. Okay, are we skipping length and moving on to the next one, or are we going to tackle length?
Let's skip it for now.
Let's skip it for now. So then, this is a fun one. You and I have done a lot of shows over the years and a lot of photo shoots over the years. I love mixing and matching colors, but then something I never thought about till you said it was mixing and matching textures in addition to mixing and matching colors. So I think that's something we should talk about to customize. And also, Sandy, it wasn't till Sandy kind of pointed it out, mixing and matching different lengths. And I know you've talked about it over the years as well, too. But yeah, so mixing and matching colors, textures, and lengths. Those three things. We should talk about that a little bit. It's fun.
Yeah, I never have. I get a lot of people that order different lengths, and I think, wow, genius, what a good idea. But to me, I'm always worried that most hairdressers don't do a good job with placement anyway for just blending the cut, much less blending layers. So I don't even trust myself enough to get the play. I would have to pay way more attention to I'm placing for the cut more so. But if I had to place also because of the lengths, I'd be a little nervous. So I tend to do all longer lengths because it's not much more money. And then I'll cut my layers in. But I can see where some people aren't as good with cutting. And so they want to place the layers in with different lengths. But yeah, you can save some money too. And I can tell you what, I might be a little spoiled on that front. And I just charge a lot of money for extensions and probably profit a little less because I'm not particularly getting shorter lengths where I could use them. So definitely with all the lengths available, you could do shorter lengths here where you're going to be framing the face anyway, like all through this area. And then if you're going to do one length, you can do shorter at the bottom and longer at the top, and they'll meet to one length, or vice versa for layers. So I can see where length can be very helpful for layers as well as saving money because the shorter hair is less expensive. Color, I learned a little secret, and I've talked about it one other time that I remember from Linda Yodici with Paul Mitchell. She's Scott Cole was I don't know if they were ever actually married, but they were a couple, and he used to be the cutter and she was the colorist, and they were very departmentalized in their salon. And so her doing color all day, one after another, with a lot of assistants to get it going. I asked her one time about the highlight or the low light using multiple colors. And she goes, really multiple colors was born out of me doing a highlight. And then a girl said she wanted a little bit of this. And I was like, ooh. And so she looked at it and she said, man, what if I don't get this brown, this low light just right? Maybe I mix one that I think is a little, I think it might be right, but it might be a little light. So I'm going to do a little lighter and a little darker low light. And so she said, so I was putting 3 different colors in, even though they didn't ask for it, and they ended up liking it more. And I said, well, that's interesting. So the dimensional color ends up being more popular than one low light in a highlight. And so I brought that into the extension world. That was a long time ago too. That's when I started to realize the importance of, China calls it piano colors. If you ever see any of the ads from China,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
any of the highlight, low light colors. It took me a while to figure that out, but the black and white keys on a piano keyboard is the contrasting colors and highlight colors. But it's the most underused color in extensions. Any company that has 2 together, which we have it in she hair and we have it in on stage hair, both in individual strands and the wefts. But when you have a blended brown blonde mix, not only do I get one brown blonde mix, if I'm putting brown blonde on a client, I almost always use 2 different, like brown blonde, 2 different brown blonde mixes along with the highlight or a low light or the primary color or the base color or whatever we're doing. Like if it's just a brown or a blonde, I'm putting that brown or blonde hair in. And so if I'm doing keratin tips, I would have 2 brown blonde mixes, and I might be blonde, blonde, the other brown blonde. And so totally mixing it up, because the more brown blonde mixes in there, the better it looks, the dimensional color. And I don't think enough people do that. Do you?
It's scary. That's the problem. Everybody is so worried. I don't know what happens when it comes to hair extensions, but everybody gets their blinders on and they get tunnel visioned and they're like, this must match precisely. And it's like, ain't no way in this God's green earth that is ever going to happen under any circumstance whatsoever. They're like, no, that's not true. Yeah, it is. Because the second that client shampoos her hair, every shampoo is going to remove some surface color.
Yeah.
And that color ain't going to be the same freaking color. But that extensions is going to stay consistent, more consistent,
much longer.
Yeah. than the hair color is going to stay. So you're going to end up with a mismatch. You're going to have to retone, refresh, and redo something anyways. So
or your cut has to blend better, or the multicolors helps camouflage it.
And that's the beauty of the multicolors. The other thing is there ain't nobody out there, even you, me right now, our hair color is not all 100% matte, even color. You know, it's a little lighter, it's a little darker. Even if your hair was 100% identical, the same exact color under some hypothetical BS scenario, your hair is shorter on the sides, it's longer on the top. The way light bounces off your head, this is going to look lighter, this is going to look darker. That's it. Unless your face is 100% symmetry perfect, which nobody's is. And
Mine is.
Yours is. Yeah, right.
It's not.
And unless you're able to get the most perfect 90-degree part and perfectly split all your hair even in every single strand, I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So mixing the colors.
Like right now, I'm under 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights plus the house lights.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's creating all kind of highlight and low light, and I'm completely lit up in here, and my hair is still not one color.
That's a great point. Yeah, you'd never have to move out of place either. You'd have to be frozen in one spot for your hair to always look the same. So that mixing and matching of colors is so vital. And then go a little bit lighter, go a little bit darker. Let the natural color be part of the whole thing. Rather than trying to match their natural color, use their natural color. Well, I say natural, but whatever their color formula is, use that as part of the placement strategy as well, too. I think too many people get focused and hung up on only the extension colors working, and they forget about what they're attaching it to. So that's a really fun one. As far as textures go, natural body, we keep saying straight hair all the time, but it's actually it's natural body. There is a little bit of a bounce or a movement or a wave to it.
That's right.
There is wavy hair, there is curly hair, but they're straight. There is a stick straight, super straight hair, and then there's a natural body hair. And both can look straight, but majority of the time we're getting natural body. And if your hair isn't pin straight, you do not want super straight hair.
Right.
And I hate to tell you, you have to blow dry your hair straight. Even if it was pin straight, you'd still have to blow dry your hair straight.
Yeah. And it's a shame that our minds work like this. I wish I knew how many extension clients I've done. It's in the hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't even know, but I've done so many heads of hair extensions through the years between hair shows and in the salon. And the thing that sticks in my head the most when you say that is the 2 or 3 negative experiences I've had through the years. It's crazy how negativity like just sticks because you never want to make that mistake again thing. And the one biggest mistake ever was a girl who had real straight hair. And she said, I want straight hair. And I said, well, lucky for you, that's what we use, straight hair. It was a little earlier in my career. And then she washes her hair and she says, you lied to me. It's not straight. Your extensions have a little bit of wave to it. And I thought, it really does, doesn't it? And then I didn't even know how to fix it at the time. I mean, I can make hair extensions really straight by just squeezing a perm solution through it for a few seconds now, but I didn't think about it back then. I just apologized. I was embarrassed, so much so that it's burned into my brain and it hurt so bad. I was so embarrassed. And I thought, wow, since her one time over 20 years ago, I can't forget it, first of all, but I've never had that complaint ever again. So to me, the odds are in this country, every country's different. The typical hair is going to be a little different, but we have a pretty good melting pot mix of textures in this country. But most white people's hair in this country has a little bit of wave. There's very few percentage-wise that's bone straight. And so we don't even stock silky straight hair. We don't even stock it because it's so rare that somebody wants it. Even the silky straight customers want a little bit of wave. It was just this one that complained and burned it in my memory that I was terrible. Then you've got people with a little more wave than the wave that we sell, and it blends fine. But we do have wavier hair, curlier hair, and silky straight that you can custom order, depending on what brand you're getting. If you're getting she hair, we have 3 different textures, which one, like you said, natural body, the wave, the body wave, and curly. But we've got the same thing in the on-stage hair extensions, but we've never been asked for silky straight that I know of. Never, other than one girl that complained over 20 years ago that messed me up. But from there, the curlier textures, I actually find, I don't understand why it didn't come natural to them. Rarely ever did I do a perm with one color perm rod. So why would I do extensions with one curly texture? And so I actually would not want to custom order the curly hair from our office. Many people do because people have been so weak in the perm department for so many years that they don't want a perm hair. They're like, no, I just want to order it curly. Well, how do you know it's going to even blend with your client's hair? The rod size that we choose is probably not, because you've got so many rod size choices in the salon. Why wouldn't you want to perm it with different color rods, right next to each other, 2 of one color, 1 of another, or one back and forth? I mean, the most common perm when I was a young stylist was a gray and white perm, or a white and purple rod. So why wouldn't you do that with extensions and alter that color? And then if you're doing K-tips and you can order straight, which was slightly wavy, and wavy hair, or wavy and curly hair, just to mix it up. And then when I started to notice the trend from the 80s to now, the curly hair, as it's coming back, even as it stayed around a little bit, the trend used to be big here. I've said it a few times, like the higher we could tease it and get it, curly hair and big here and staying big all the way down. And then the trend started to turn into where it was flatter here and it was slightly wavy and big down here.
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
And so now it's kind of in between the two. People are starting to go with a little bit of height on top and they want a little more even, but still a little. And so they want less wave up here and curlier down here. Well, you can do a perm like that too, where it's curlier on the ends and wavier at the root by piggybacking the perm rods. So there's so much creativity you can do with the perm rod on hair extensions if you perm it yourself. Even if you just go with the simple 2 of one color, 2 of another, and just vary it. That's the start of it. But you can get way more technically detailed if you want to.
So, I mean, think about that. We've talked about fashion. We've talked about length. We've talked about thickening, volume. Well, we didn't talk about length, but we talked about volume and thickening. We've talked about using it as a advertising tool, as a psychological tool, as your go-to for everything. I mean, hair extensions really are a very versatile thing that we have behind the chair. And I think it's underutilized. I don't think we go to it enough. I think we try way too hard to split one hair into two and tease the hell out of it. You know, I think we try to layer the hell out of the hair to try to hide disconnections and mess ups. I think, yeah, we try to over style and scrunch the hair like crazy to try to make it do what we want it to do. So thinking about everything we talked about today, that is a lot of versatility.
So let's end with this. My challenge to the hairdresser, no matter when they're watching this, even if it's in like 2030, if you're watching this and you have any sort of hair extension in your station, your cart, your availability, you have some pieces, parts from somebody that you had more hair than you needed, or somebody returned their hair, or you took it out and you kept it and it's just sitting there. What are you doing with it? Use it for marketing. Put it on a client today. Just put one piece, one strand. I mean, we did a promotion one time where we took a pack of strands, whether it was O-tips or K-tips, and we encouraged every single client to have one piece put on their head. I want to put one piece on every single person's head for the day. And of course, I had the smart ass hairdresser say, even men? Yes.
Yeah.
What about children? Yes. Yeah. Try. That's the point. If it's on the top of your mind and you're trying to, even her mom or his mom, while they're there watching the cut, put one piece in. And you know what? It turns into a whole lot of fun. I mean, a guy, what do you want? You want a rat tail? You want a little piece on the side? You want what color? Look,
guys are hilarious when they get involved. They're
take a
hilarious.
Picture and put it on Facebook and just freak your wife out for a minute or your friends, and they're gonna be, "Are you serious? You did that? Yeah. Why? What are you doing that for?" We're gonna take it right out at the end, or you can keep it and leave and advertise extensions for me. You know, whatever you want to do, wear it through the weekend and yank it out, cut it out, come back, I'll remove it. Whatever you want to do in a few days. And so, I mean, if you're trying it on every single person, sure, the moms are going to be like, no, my kid can't have it. Sometimes they're going to be like, sure, for free. Okay. It's summer, especially right now. It's summertime right now in 2030. And so put it on there. Put it on every single person that comes through the shop, every single person you see. Say, hey, sit down. We're putting an extension on you. Wait, what? Yeah, we're just going to try it. I don't want an extension. It's just for fun. Can we just take a picture? I just want to show you what they're about, because a lot of people don't even know how extensions work. Remember, we talked about it earlier. Yeah. And so if you're going to use the word extension, then go ahead and use it, put it on their head and educate them on what the word even means. And a lot of those guys are going to send you a girl friend, a wife, a mom, a daughter that wants extensions, because he's going to be like, I didn't even know you did extensions, because you said it earlier. They don't tell people that they do them. People don't even know they do them. So if you put them on a man, you're not even thinking that that's going to be a promotion for you, but it will be. It will be. He will post his stupid picture just for fun. And some girl that knows him on Facebook is going to say, where did you get that? I didn't know that stylist did extensions. How much do they cost? How do they do them? Do you have any other pictures? And just make sure you're in that thread so that you can start answering some questions. So that's my challenge to you. Take that crap out of your drawer, put it on somebody's head today.
Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next week.